The story is about a grumpy father-in-law who got a funny surprise. The storyteller, a 32-year-old woman, has a father-in-law who is 67 years old and always grumpy. He often complains, talks about politics, and doesn't seem happy unless he's giving his opinion. The storyteller's husband, who is 33, says his dad wasn't always like this. They invite him over for dinner every 2 weeks, but he still complains they don't spend enough time with him. The storyteller handles his grumpiness like dealing with a noisy toddler, just saying wow and then ignoring him. Recently, they reorganized their kitchen and realized they had too many coffee mugs. They decided to get rid of about 17 mugs. When the father-in-law came over for dinner and saw the box of mugs, he started complaining about how wasteful people are these days. He said in his time, people used things until they broke and then fixed them. He liked to keep everything, even if he didn't need it. The storyteller just said, okay, and kept getting dinner ready. Then, at a Christmas celebration with the family, they exchanged gifts. The father-in-law got a big surprise when he opened his gift. It was a box with the 17 used coffee mugs they were planning to get rid of. The father-in-law was very surprised and a little bit confused. He started saying he already had enough mugs and didn't have space for so many more. But the husband just smiled and said, I'm sure you'll find something to do with them. You're very good at using old things in new ways. But in just 2 days after getting his new mug collection, the father-in-law called the husband and wife 7 times. He was trying to make them take back the mugs. The wife just told him that it would be wasteful to take them back and thanked him for keeping the mugs. The wife thought that if the father-in-law stopped talking about the mugs, he might have thrown them away or given them to someone else. But she didn't stop there. She kept asking him how he liked the mugs, what he was doing with them, and if he found any good use for all 17 of them. It was a fun way to remind him about not wasting things. The next story is about a 1-year-old child named Vampira and how she said just one word that made everyone think. Vampira's cousin, who liked to talk a lot about her own children, was always boasting. The cousin acted as if her children were the best at everything and were getting noticed by important people in sports and ballet. She even joked that her kids were so smart, they knew Shakespeare before they were born. But little Vampira, at just 14 months old, was just learning to walk and talk. She had learned to say only one word, nigh. She would say nigh nigh when she was going to bed or when she saw one of the cats taking a nap. One day, they were on a video call with some family members in the UK. When the family said goodnight, Vampira said nigh nigh and curled up on the couch to show them how she goes to sleep. This simple moment was very special and showed that sometimes a little child's single word can be very powerful and sweet. The family and friends have a party that happened over the weekend. It was a special party because it was to celebrate Martin and the storyteller getting engaged, which means they decided to get married. The storyteller's sister, who they say is a bit scary, hosted the party. There was a cousin at the party, named Pooh-Covered Lou, or PCL for short. PCL didn't really like the storyteller's sister, but she came to the party anyway. She spent a lot of time in the kitchen, not feeling very happy. Sometimes PCL would come out of the kitchen and try to cause some trouble, but usually the scary sister would stop her. After a while, PCL tried to get attention by teaching the storyteller's 1-year-old daughter, Vampira, to talk. Vampira was sitting between her grandpa and the storyteller on a couch when PCL came over. PCL was holding a teddy bear and a doll and was trying to get Vampira to say Teddy and Dolly. The storyteller and their dad kept telling PCL that it wasn't the right time and to please go away, but PCL kept trying. During all this, Vampira just stared at PCL and didn't make a sound. Finally, PCL asked if Vampira had her hearing checked, which is a way of asking if she could hear well. That's when Vampira gave PCL a very serious look and said nigh nigh really loudly, then turned away and cuddled into the storyteller's lap, ignoring PCL. The storyteller almost felt sorry for PCL because a 1-year-old had just ignored her so completely. But they couldn't help but laugh, especially when the scary sister teased PCL. saying she did get Vampira to say something. PCL went back to the kitchen, still trying to cause drama. PCL also tried to cause drama about other things, like the storyteller's last name after they get married, the small age difference between Martin and the storyteller, and the fact that neither of them wanted engagement rings. PCL even made a fuss about people not wearing animal print clothes for a video call, even though everyone else, including family in the UK and Canada, wore animal prints just for fun. The storyteller thinks back and wonders if they were like Vampira when they were a toddler. They imagine they wouldn't have liked it if someone they hardly knew kept trying to teach them to talk, just like PCL was doing with Vampira. It's important to remember that sometimes little kids have their own ways of dealing with situations, and they can be quite smart about it as a person who wasn't very comfortable with people they didn't know well coming too close and waving toys at them, asking them to say words like dolly. They felt this would have made them feel really uncomfortable as a child, and they probably would have wanted to say no and turn away, just like little Vampira did. Our next story is about a job at a place called Cracker Barrel. This happened about 10 years ago. The person telling the story really needed a job because they didn't have much money. They were lucky to get a job at Cracker Barrel as a cook. They asked to work full-time, which means a lot of hours every week, and they got the job. They were put on the breakfast shift, which means they had to cook lots of breakfast food like eggs. Imagine flipping eggs over and over again. This Cracker Barrel was a very busy place, and they would make a lot of money every hour. But there was something about the job that wasn't so good. The person's work schedule said they should work a full day, like from 8 in the morning to 5 in the evening, or from 6 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. But what actually happened was different. They would be sent home 2 or 3 hours earlier than planned. Not just them, but all the other cooks too. This happened because a lot of the food was already almost cooked. So when not many people were eating at the restaurant, the managers would send most of the cooks home. These managers had a lot of people working for them, and they really wanted to save money. They thought if they paid the cooks less, they would get more money for themselves as a bonus. The person who worked there started feeling unhappy. They would wake up very early in the morning, ready to work a whole day, but then they would only work for 4 or 5 hours and have to go home. Their paychecks, the money they earned from working, were not enough to pay for everything they needed. They wanted to work more and earn more, but the job at Cracker Barrel didn't let them do that. One night, they went out with friends to a place called a casino. A casino is a big place where adults play games to try and win money. The person didn't have a lot of money, just about $80, but something really exciting happened. They played a game on a machine called a slot machine and won a lot of money. This is called hitting the jackpot. It was a very lucky and happy moment for them, and it happened on a Saturday night. The next day, they were supposed to go to work at Cracker Barrel. But they thought, I have won enough money to not work for a few months. So they decided not to go to work and didn't even call to tell their boss. This made their boss, the manager at Cracker Barrel, really upset. The manager kept calling their phone over and over in the morning, but the person didn't answer right away because they were still sleepy. When they finally answered, they told the manager they weren't coming to work and that they quit their job. The manager got really loud and couldn't believe they were quitting on a very busy day like Mother's Day. He said the person was the only one who could cook eggs really well at the egg station. The manager also said that if they quit, they would never be able to work at any Cracker Barrel restaurant again. The person replied to the manager, saying that since the managers always wanted to save money on labor costs, this was a good chance for them to do that. The person thought it was funny how the manager acted like working at Cracker Barrel was the most important job ever. In their town, there were 6 different Cracker Barrel restaurants, so the manager thought they wouldn't be able to find another job. But the person wasn't worried. Now let's talk about another story called Christmas Gift Revenge. This happened a long time ago, about 23 years back. There was a husband and wife, and the husband wasn't very good at giving gifts. Instead of getting something nice for his wife, he would buy things that he wanted for himself. One year, close to Christmas, the husband brought home a big box wrapped up as a present. He told his wife it was for her and seemed very excited about it. Now, they didn't have a lot of money, so usually, they only bought gifts for their children and the husband's family, who always seemed to want a lot. The wife didn't feel too excited about the gift she got. She had a feeling that it might not be something she really liked. When Christmas Eve came, they started opening gifts. The husband was super excited and told his wife she was going to love her present. But when she opened the box, she found a shop vacuum inside. A shop vacuum is a big vacuum that can clean up things like water and is usually used in places like garages. They had hardwood and linoleum floors at home, so she always swept and mopped and didn't need a vacuum like that. The husband said it was great because it could clean up the garage, which was his area, and even mentioned he had already tried it before wrapping it up. The wife was really upset because it seemed like the husband had bought the vacuum for himself, not her. She would have been happier with a small, simple gift, like a $5 necklace, even if it wasn't fancy. That night, she was so upset that she didn't want to sleep in the same bed as her husband. He came to find her in the living room and asked her to come to bed, but she said she couldn't because she was too upset to look at him. The husband then said she was being selfish, because gifts should be for the family to use, not just for what one person wants. The wife stayed up all night, thinking about how to get back at her husband for the not-so-thoughtful gift. She waited a whole year, keeping her plan a secret from everyone. Finally, 50 weeks later, close to the next Christmas, she found the perfect gift for her revenge. She wasn't even looking for it, but it seemed perfect when she saw it. It was in a huge box. She bought it quickly, wrapped it up, and hid it so her husband wouldn't find it. She waited for Christmas Eve when her husband was at work to get everything ready for her big surprise. She decided to teach her husband a lesson about giving thoughtful gifts. Remember the husband who bought a shop vacuum for himself and gave it to his wife as a Christmas present? Well, this time, the wife had a plan for revenge. She bought a special present for her husband and put it under the Christmas tree. She wrapped it in 2 rolls of cheap wrapping paper, put some ribbon and a bow on it, and it felt quite heavy. When they started opening gifts, she waited for the right moment. Finally, her husband saw the big box with his name on it and got very excited. He thought it was something special just for him. The husband opened the box and found a case of toilet paper. The wife then reminded him of what he said last year. Christmas gifts are not about what we want, but what the family needs and can use. And well, everyone needs toilet paper. The husband was really angry and complained to everyone, but both their families and his brothers told him he deserved the toilet paper gift. From then on, no one in their family ever bought a vacuum cleaner as a gift for their wives. The story shows that it's not that a vacuum cleaner is a bad gift, but it should be something that the person actually wants. The next story is about a toy war between family members. When the storyteller's brother was a toddler, a cousin bought him a special Christmas gift. It was a purple Sesame Street saxophone that was very loud, and you couldn't take the batteries out. If you pressed the buttons, it made a lot of noise. The parents found it so annoying that one day, the saxophone mysteriously disappeared and was never seen again. The next Christmas, the mom decided to get revenge. She bought the cousin's son a full drum set, and it was a big one. The boy played it for years in their small house, often in the living room, making lots of noise. Since then, no one has tried to give annoying toys to the family, and the cousins started to dislike drums. The story is a bit funny because it shows that you shouldn't give something annoying if you can't handle getting something annoying in return. Now let's talk about the next story, which is about going to a dance and something funny that happened there. A few weeks ago, someone went dancing at a place he had never been to before. It was a bit unlucky for him because almost everyone there already had a dance partner. But he was lucky enough to find a girl to dance with. Let's call her Brittany for the story. Brittany was not only pretty, but she was also a great dancer. The person really liked dancing with Brittany and even got her phone number. A week or 2 later, Brittany texted him, asking if he wanted to go dancing again. He was excited and said yes. When he got to the dance, Brittany texted saying she would be late because she was getting food. The person thought it was a bit strange that she would eat before coming to dance, especially since she invited him, but he waited for her at the dance. While waiting, there was another guy who didn't have a partner either. The person started talking to this other guy. They talked about small things and found out they both had been going dancing for about the same amount of time. They also both were named Matt and were waiting for a girl to show up at the dance. Suddenly, the person telling the story had a moment of realization. They started to think that maybe both of them were waiting for the same girl, Brittany. They both thought it was strange that Brittany invited two people to the dance. They decided to talk and found out they had a lot in common. The first, Matt thought Brittany was playing a trick on both of them by inviting two people with the same name. Instead of getting upset, they came up with a plan. They decided to wait for Brittany to arrive and then leave together. When Brittany finally showed up and started putting her things down, the two Matts shook hands and left the dance at the same time. They felt a bit sad about the situation, but they were happy they left on their own terms and didn't let Brittany play a trick on them. They were both a bit confused about why Brittany did this. Maybe she thought it was funny, but the two Matts didn't. The last story is about someone who grew up in a difficult home. Their father was not kind and made the family live in fear. As a child, they found a small way to fight back. The father was very paranoid and thought people were always watching or after him. So the child would sneak into his study and move small things around, like a pack of staples or a pen, just to the other side of the desk. This would really bother the father. The person telling the story thinks that remembering this small act of rebellion helped them just as much as many years of therapy and medication. It's a story about finding small ways to cope in a tough situation. This story is about a little trick someone found that helped them feel better when things were tough at home. It's like finding a small secret way to make yourself smile even when things aren't so great.